Can you comment on your perspective on women, their staying power, their grit, and their resilience? Thank you.
So on a personal level, I feel like I've also benefited from sponsorship, from agency, from being carried. I spent much of my professional career in England and in the States. I spent much of it working for BP, an oil company. And I spent a lot of that time working, well, some of that time I started in the back office. And at the time, this is late 90s, early 90s, it was quite uncommon, not rare, but just uncommon for black people to be seen on the trading floor, to be seen in very commercial roles. And BP at the time had a program. I think that program was designed to allow anybody who the leadership would not necessarily see or have access to the opportunity to be seen. And the way they structured it was around two types of things. They had the first one, which was a career advancement program. That was very much merit type driven. If you went to a red brick university, if you had been identified as a high pot, then you would fall into this bucket. Then they had another bucket for minorities, we'll call them then, women, people with certain disabilities, and that was a bit more of a social event. They would get a place like this, they would rent the British Museum, and they would have all the senior leaders show up. So you'd have the CEO, John Brown, his first level directors, the board would literally be at that meeting, and it would be a networking event where it was expected that if you're invited, you would go, you would tell them about your career aspirations, you tell them what you wanted to do, and if you found favor and if they believed your case, then you would be sponsored, and I benefited from that. Through that session, I met John Brown, who then said, well, you studied maths as a master's degree, then you should try to be a quant. And he sent me a note to 3 senior leaders, and I moved literally through that sort of structure. So I understand it very well, and I agree with the previous speaker that actually sponsorship is a big part of what's needed to progress in a successful career. Yes, it's very good to have your head down, do the work, but that work can go unnoticed, right? There are very few people who make it into corporate who are not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, who are not able to progress. But I think sponsorship plays a large role. And then some of the other things I believe are necessary is around really leadership, and it's that sort of self-leadership. Right? You can be in an organization, you can lead from the front, you can lead from the middle. It's also possible that you are a leader from the back, and it's by doing some of the things that have been spoken about. It's about having I think it's called a superpower in today's parlance. It's about having a superpower, realizing that in an organization where everybody is equally, to a point, brilliant, you have to have something unique to bring to the table. And the way I was taught it was to say, well, find something that nobody likes to do, but is important to an organization. And you can find that sort of work at any level, right? And then master it. In my case, it was Excel, right? I became the Excel guy in my unit. I hated Excel, but I became the Excel guy in my unit, so much so that whenever a line manager had a presentation to make, they had to come to you to help them put something. So create that sort of dependency. It's also important, I think, to have a vision for your career. Be able to tell a story around what you want to do. Again, it's called storyboarding today. And the way I was taught it was, if you find yourself, always be prepared for a moment where you will find somebody who can either be a mentor, a sponsor, and you find yourself in the lift or the elevator with them. And you have, and it's the elevator pitch, but with a slight spin. And you have literally 10 floors to make an impression. Well, you could either make it up on the spot and try to have a situational conversation, or you could have a pre-canned life story, vision board that You then relate. It's something you've identified in the organization that's not quite right. And I mean, a lot of senior leaders like that kind of interaction. So I think it's absolutely critical that ownership is one of those pieces.
Okay.
Then, in terms of what has helped me as a leader, I think vision is one. The resilience bit is really around recognizing the fact that 99% of the rocks you lift they will have nothing underneath them, and it's really being able to withstand a certain amount or a high number of no's and still be able to hope and prepare for that moment, for that yes moment that'll come.
Okay. So thank you. No, I think those are fantastic tips. You talk about sponsorship, resilience, being prepared. Assuming as a woman you work in an environment that is not as open to diversity in leadership, and perhaps not just from a gender perspective, anything that's different, that doesn't look like us, that doesn't sound like us, walk like us, or talk like us. How do you navigate that? And specifically, you're an executive leader, so you're in a position of influence. You have the ability to make a difference. How can we hold senior management more accountable for inclusion and diversity? And I'd really like for you to talk about it very briefly, from being a senior male leader and your recognition that there are women on the career rung who may not have as much opportunity to have that voice in the corporate space.
All right, thank you. So I think that it's important to recognize that the challenge is both structural and cultural. If we are at the senior management level, and I'm looking at around my board and saying there are no women here, then we've missed the boat completely. You really need to go to the origins as senior leadership to recognize that if you don't create a pathway at the entry level, then you will not have women that you can consider at the senior management level. And so as a senior leader, I mean, one of the things that has typically worked is that we need to see more opportunity creation, and it's really doing things as a senior leader at the entry level. So creating scholarships for women or for girls at secondary school level to study a particular brand of subject, particularly. So my sector has always been STEM, oil and gas. I go to meetings where if I said gentlemen, I would be addressing 100% of the people around me. So I think we have to recognize that the problem doesn't start in the boardroom or in senior management. The challenge really is at the entry level. So it's really about creating those sort of opportunities.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Mr. Adeosun. So